so quick, you've actually eaten into the preamble a little bit. So let me just ask a few more questions. And you guys can answer some of these questions too. Okay, so we asked about social media. Oh, many of these people on the stage with me are on social media. And if you go to my Twitter handle, I've pinned a tweet there with all their handles on Twitter. And you can look for yourself if you want to find them on Instagram or anywhere else. Who in the audience has read the Oscar Wilde version of this story? Oh, lots of hands, very good. Who has seen any other adaptations of Dorian Gray? Oh, we've got some experts here, we've got some experts. Very good. Who has seen previous Blue Devil productions? Oh, fans. And anyone seen this Blue Devil production? Oh, wow. Repeat. That's very good. Okay, excellent. And I can't even read that. What that? Oh, who's because you know Blue Devil are based in Brighton. Anybody come up from Brighton? Yay!
Well, hey,
welcome to London. Welcome to London. And does anyone already know they've got questions they want to ask? Okay, well, hold your horses. I'll come to you. Lovely. So let me introduce you two. I'm joined by lots of people on stage here. Who are we going to start with? I'm going to start with Jordan Lewis. And tell me if I mispronounce anyone's name. Conor Litten.
Yep.
Heather Alexander. Chloe Orrock. Rich Bright, who is producer of Blue Devil, Ross Dinwiddy, who is the artistic director and who has adapted and directed this production, Christopher Sherwood, and Maximus, is it Polling or Polling? Polling. Yeah. Very good, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Go on.
Good effort.
Yeah, very good. All right, so let me then start, Ross and Rich, with you. Before we speak specifically about Dorian Gray, tell us a little bit about Blue Devil and why you founded it.
Right. Blue Devil was founded about
2016, 17. Yeah.
The first thing we did was a version of Joe Orton's Ruffian on the Stage. We were talking about it earlier tonight. And we talked about queer theatre, but without it being ghettoised. And one of the reasons we went with Orton, and that thing in particular, it was originally written for the radio, and a version was done at the Royal Court sort of shortly afterwards, but we felt we could make it a little bit more, it often done quite farcically, and like Orton's often done quite farcically, but I felt if it was done with a bit more of a kitchen sink feel about it, that more what I wanted to do. We sort of just worked along from there. Second year we started with an adaptation which I wrote of Kafka's In the Penal Colony, which we called Apparatus.
I remember.
Thank you, yeah. And,
hard to forget that.
I took my liberties with that and sort of worked my way through it, and we've just carried on going from there.
Yeah.
Each year we've had more or less a new production until COVID, and then we've had this in brewing for 2 years.
And after the Joe Orton, you mentioned Apparatus. That was a literary adaptation of a of a Kafka short story. You then did a Conrad short story, The Geminus. So this is another literary adaptation, but I think it's fair to say that those were probably lesser known stories than Dorian Gray.
Well, that was one of the big, slightly intimidating things about this.
I was wondering.
Because lots of people don't know In the Penal Colony or The Secret Sharer. When people think Kafka, they think The Trial or Metamorphosis, obviously, or when there's Conrad, it's Heart of Darkness, I suppose, whereas Oscar Wilde, obviously, The Picture of Dorian Gray, or later Windermere's fan, or obviously Portsea in Earnest. But this, in terms of, it is his only novel anyway. Everybody knows this, and everybody knows this story.
Yes.
And I think what we've done here is sort of use the fact that everybody sort of knows the story, but how this can surprise and create a sense of doom about it all.
Yeah. And had you had your eye on Oscar Wilde and Dorian Gray?
This was almost the first thing I decided to do back, I was just saying in 2016, when we first formed the company. I found an email where I sent to somebody who was working with us at the time, I've got a great idea. I want to adapt the Picture of Dorian Gray. Please don't tell anybody, but that's what I'm going to do next. It turned out 5 years later we get it to the stage.
Yeah.
Back then it was going to be a period piece. It was going to be very much more conventional. And I kept attempting it over the last 5 years. and it never sort of got off the ground, because I think I was thinking about it too, sort of like, let's take the book to the stage. And it was 2019, very early 2019, that I thought, oh, wait a minute, what if it all started in the 1960s and society had completely changed? It's going to be a bigger job, but maybe, and that's what, it started writing itself almost once I came up with that idea.
Once you had the location. Interesting. So let me bring everyone else into that. So did you guys raise your hands? So who had read the original novel? Okay, so who had seen previous adaptations?
I've been in the previous.
You've been in the previous adaptation.
Yes.
Okay, and so, oh, that's so interesting. So what was your the previous adaptation you were in like?
It was much more traditional.
Yeah.
It was adapted to be taken on tour in Italy. So it was quite sort of pared back in a lot of ways to keep it reasonably kind of simple. And I actually played all of the female characters in it.
Oh my
Including Cyril Vane.
Oh my goodness, interesting. And so what did you guys think when you heard Ross's idea to start the story in the 1960s and what that might mean? And actually, I'm going to turn to Max first, not just because you play the title character, but also this is not your first experience with Blue Devil.
No, it's not.
You were in the memorable apparatus.
Yeah, it was, yeah. Much smaller role, but yes. Yeah. The idea of it being set in the 60s and 70s, it took a minute to understand, and Ross sent me the script to read, and I just thought it was really interesting and different, and it being on the cusp of social media and things like that by the end of the play really lended itself to the picture of Dorian Gray still, and how and how media and status can still impact, and more so impact Dorian and all of these ideas and themes going through the play.
So that appealed to you,
Yeah.
and you got to wear some cool clothes. What do you think, Jordan? What did you think about the 1960s as a setting?
Yeah, I love it. I'm a big 60s music fan, 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
So that really appealed to me, and yeah, I kind of much more interested in that than when the book was written or set, or
Yeah.
you know, that sort of period of time is more close to me, you know. So yeah, I was excited by the idea of the costumes and the type of people that they would be, you know, the characters. So yeah.
It's so strange too, seeing it, that like how different the 60s to the 70s to the 90s seem. And Heather, for you, you're playing a character that maybe we might not all be familiar with. Tell us about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, Mavis is really good fun, and I think she's grown as a fun character. And it's actually, I mean, I did know people in the 80s who were very much like that. And I still get to contact.
Was Mavis an invention?
Mavis is an invention. In fact, there's a few things that are quite different.
Yeah.
Mavis, there's a character called Lady Ruxton, who's a bit of a gossip, who's at the opera and things, but she's only very, very tiny. But I needed a sort of a stitch of the media, or of a certain sort of aspect of the media that runs through it as a character. And so Mavis Ruxton becomes that runs through this. Alan Campbell only appears in the book to be blackmailed at one stage. So we've taken his character and expanded upon it to create a thread through it too. So these two are probably the two that we've expanded upon most.
I'm also interested in the casting of Chris and Jordan. You've got very clear accents that kind of I wouldn't have associated with the original Oscar Wilde and aristocracy.
This is a big thing with the 60s too.
Yeah.
You know, one of the taglines we've used is "The world has changed."
Yeah.
It's 1965, and you know, you think of the inset in 1960s London. You know, Michael Caine or John Lennon, etc. The notion of where people were who were involved in this kind of set in the 1800s and what Oscar Wilde was writing about. In fact, I think it was one of the great big inspiring things was that Gierland's Mary Quant and the whole sort of cultural and class shift of what was cool in 1960s London. And in fact, when I first auditioned Chris, we did it twice. And Chris can do a very good RP accent.
Well, let's hear it.
Well, I generally speak with that's what drama school does. You know.
And then I'd seen his show reel, and I said, well, "Can you should we do it again with your own accent?"
Yeah.
And I think it's really made, well, Chris and I working together as well, is that Basil came alive with
I love it.
with that. So I think it gives it an authenticity for time and place.
Yeah. I also loved the reference Sybil says at one point, I even get to use my own accent.
Yes, there's yes, yeah.
Yeah, because I've got a bit like Chris. I've got quite a sort of naturally flexible accent from the Midlands, and so I really enjoyed playing with how she like presents herself when she's in a public space versus how she is with Dorian when she's on her own in the bedroom. And the different drama schools are still like, well, I think they've changed a bit recently, but I think especially back then, any sort of natural accent that you'd have had that was different from RP would have very often been sort of trained out of you, even for your normal kind of life, you know. But yeah, that was fun. That was a fun element of it.
Yeah. And what about for you, Chris?
Yeah, I think making him northern accentuated him as an outsider in London, and there's something about him as an artist being an outsider that lent himself to being this one. He's watching everyone and taking an external view on people.
It was really the beginning of us creating him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I love Basil, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we love Basil.
Okay, there was a hand over here. Yes, let's start with you.
Hi. Well, first of all, what impressed me about was the laid-back attitude of the play, reminiscent of the time. I don't know if you're aware of this. There was a very famous 1973, I think, or 74, daily chat show fronted by Mavis Nicholson.
Yeah, all right, yes,
And she interviewed Bowie. And Bowie walked off because all he kept on asking about was his sexuality. Nothing to do with his album, nothing to do with plugging his latest book and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But what impressed me about this particular, I am reviewing it by the way. What impressed me about it was, it's like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's not what you don't. It's not what you don't see, which makes it more frightening. You see what I mean? It's not what you don't see. So was in the traditional sense of Dorian Gray, the denouement is we get to see the fucking picture.
Yeah.
Right? So not seeing the picture, was that deliberate?
Oh yes, it was very deliberate.
Question too. Good question.
What do you think is happening with the painting?
Well, it's aging.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Or do you think Dorian's vandalising it?
No, I think it's
Yeah, I want to leave that. Yeah.
It's up to the audience to decide. But
I'm deciding to leave it ambiguous as to, unlike the original book, how much supernatural things is actually going on here.
Well, the most powerful thing is great imagination.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
when people freak out about it, people freak out about it, saying, "Oh, I want to see the picture. I want to see the picture." I mean.
But can I just say, I did, the first thing I came up on the stage, I was like, I want to see what's on that canvas. Are we allowed to tell them what's on the canvas?
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Well, where is the canvas?
No,
Richard, take
I
it away.
shall go and get it.
This is the special extra that you get. And it just show just how imaginative the people are on stage. But is that a well-known interpretation that it's going to be used? It's like Yasmina Riza's art, isn't it? It's the white painting.
And do you know who painted that one eye?
Oh, yes, you can see that. That's not a squashed fly. That is a little eye.
That eye was painted in our first rehearsal.
It was during the film.
It was our first with the props.
Yeah.
So why an eye? That's the painting looking back
Well,
at us?
I just thought I'd start painting. So I actually had a bit of pain and thought I'd see how far I get during the rehearsal and the filming, and that's how far I got.
But is that a well-known interpretation that maybe he's just vandalising the painting?
I don't know. I don't think so, actually.
No, that's just you.
We've had conversations as we've gone along as to, is anything supernatural happening here?
Yeah.
I don't really want to say it out loud in front of an audience, but one of the things I've sort of said to the actors is that's what's going on.
No, maybe he just discovered Botox.
Yeah,
really
Exactly.
early.
Yeah, that's another thing about.
This is also the
setting.
latter half of the 20th century. Maybe, just maybe. Nothing supernatural's happening at all.
Maybe. Interesting. Okay, other hands. Come on. I'm looking for hands. Everyone's being very shy. Okay, there we go. Lovely there.
Yeah.
So obviously you've been working on the play for quite a long time and you've done the writing on as well. fresh and different for a new run in London?
Well, before people start to answer that, let's just recap for those who don't know. This production has had an extraordinary journey, obviously being born in this crazy time we've all been living through. But Rich, why don't you just recap for us briefly what the show has been through, and then I want us to say who actually has been with it at different stages, because we have got newcomers.
We do, yeah. So we started casting in autumn 2019, and Max was the first person that we cast, and then I think Heather was second. So, and we were all going great guns. We had the full cast by early 2020. Went into rehearsal, and then of course, what happened, and we shut down. So. We decided we wanted to keep it going. We all discussed it, and we thought, right, okay, we do want to keep together. We want to keep it going. We took a break during the whole first big lockdown, and then kind of picked up again. And we were sort of doing Zoom rehearsals or one-on-ones. It was really good.
By this stage, we had Chris, Max, and Heather.
And so then we, and it was great because it really helped with like delving into character far more than you do in a rehearsal room. I think, and so it was actually really,
it was one of the silver
lining
strange
things, And then we decided to make a film version of it, and we did that in April this year.
And who was in the film version? Raise your hands, guys.
Yeah, hands.
Yes, three of you, and then.
And that was an insane experience. It was we basically filmed a feature-length film in 3 days. It was an achievement. We were all on our knees by the end of it.
It was also the first time we'd all rehearsed in person.
Yes, exactly. We were in the theatre that we were going to perform it in the first time, and we had a day rehearsal in there, and then 2 days of I think 16-hour filming.
Oh, it was about 16 to 18 hours days.
And I was getting home, but. We had 3 camera people with cameras strapped to their bodies, and they we did semi out of order, but sometimes in order. And at the end, we had something that.
Heather's looking stricken by the memory.
I just remember we did these really long scenes.
Yeah.
Could not go wrong.
Oh, no.
It was like, you're not allowed to go wrong. Do not fluff your eyes. And they just, that's it.
Yeah.
So then it was Brighton after that?
Then Brighton, yeah.
Brighton Fringe, and there you won some awards as well.
That's when Conor joined us.
Yeah, Conor joined for Brighton. Unfortunately, Tom couldn't continue, who was the original Alan, because he's kind of moved his career to sort of more behind the camera. So
then we did the Hastings Fringe, which Heather's heavily involved in, that runs, and that went very well.
Yeah, and then obviously we won the Off-Fest award from the Offies for the in Brighton, which was fantastic.
We loved that.
And then also an award for design as well, which was really
good,
great too. So.
And then why did you want to bring it to London?
It was always our intention, I think, wasn't it? Yeah.
Okay, and then we have our newcomers. So then Jordan and Chloe.
This is when these fantastic people joined us.
And so, to answer your question, I guess part of keeping it fresh is that you're adapting it for different places, different people are joining. New cast members always freshen things up, don't they?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Gives us a great new energy, I think.
Yeah, and I think this is the best version, personally, that we've ever had.
And for Jordan and Chloe, how do you feel joining at this stage?
Yeah, great. It was good to come to a production which is already in swing, and just slot in with the other actors and go from there.
He says that, but he's a very different Harry to the other Harry, and
How so?
Well, again, it's accent, I suppose. Again, it was being done rather more RP. It was being done, and I wasn't entirely happy. But I think that this Harry, it just flies.
When I auditioned for this, I looked at the text and I thought, I love it, but I thought there's no way I'm getting this part because it's an RP guy. There's no way they give it to a Geordie, right? So I thought I'm just going to come in here, this very room, and I'll just do my thing and I'll enjoy myself. Yeah. So I think that's the key, So you come in and enjoy yourself. That's what you should do in every audition, probably.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Ross said, I really like that northern accent, So then I knew he was like, his mind was being changed there, you know.
It wasn't even
So
changed.
kinda-
I mean, it certainly wasn't changed. He was the only person I saw that day actually that excited me as Harry, and he was on my shortlist immediately. And
Yeah.
I think the thing is that people have presumptions about, like Jordan was saying there, you know, what this character should be like, because everybody knows, you know, Sir Henry Wotton, who is in the book, but my Harry Wotton is not Sir Henry Wotton or Oscar Wilde. I don't think they should be. I don't think that would at all work
Yeah.
in this version.
Yeah.
It
I
also
always say
reflects
about this,
reality,
yeah.
doesn't it? Because in real life you get all sorts of different people doing all sorts of different things in all sorts of different layers of society, and so I think it's good to see that on stage, you know.
Absolutely.
And the other one was entirely different. Is of course Sybil is an actress in the East End who performs in a, because you played it before.
Yeah, quite
in-
different version.
Yeah, and now she's actually Dorian's route into society, not
Yeah.
somebody who sort of, you know, is always on the fringe and is just there to be a victim. Even though she still ends tragically, but hopefully we've given her a different beginning.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's something that I really, really liked about
Thank you.
the script, is that, you know, I had a great time doing Dorian Gray originally, really had a lot of fun, loved the production, but it's frustrating sometimes as an actor. A lot of the roles you play as a woman, sometimes they're quite 2D and they're there to sort of serve the storyline of the guy, which again doesn't reflect real life. You know, we've all got our own stories, and so what I really liked about this is, of course, Sybil's still part of Dorian's story, but she really has a character and a history, and she has her own arc that she goes through as well. So I absolutely loved that. Yeah.
I think you need to do a sequel.
Yeah.
Sybil.
Yeah.
Sybil and
Maybe,
Hetty.
maybe.
But, and also, playing your own daughter, that must have been fun to do.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Okay, more questions from the audience? We're just chatting amongst ourselves up here. Yes, here, Mark.
Just a basic question. The story of Dorian Gray seems very popular again at the moment.
Yes, there was just a production of
I
this
know,
week
we
in
know.
Reading,
That's
right?
got
Yeah.
one, and there was a screen version earlier this year with Autumn, I think. But I mean, why? I mean, you've been working on this for several years, obviously. But why do you think it's still so
Yes.
popular? So
Why does it endure, this story?
I think it's got a very strong spine. I think that it, you know, one of the things about this that we've been talking about is that there's actually only about 2 or 3 lines of Oscar Wilde dialogue left in this, but I think it's still, hopefully, recognisably that story. And I think that's to do with the strength of the idea and the strength of the major beats of the story, that this is one of those things that can be reinterpreted and re-looked at every so often. And obviously at the moment, in quite a concentrated time, that there can be a few versions about, they're all distinctly different. I think it's absolutely about the strength of the idea that's at the core of it. Actually, John Osborne did a play version of this in the 70s, and in the introduction at the beginning, and that's set in the 1800s, it's a much more straightforward adaptation. But in the intro to that, he says, the big thing about this is the strength of the idea.
And why change the title subtly, but from the picture
Well,
to
it's
the tragedy?
because it's not a version of the book.
Yeah.
It's a piece of theatre, and I thought the tragedy of Dorian Gray indicates theatre.
Says what it is. Yeah, it is what it says on the tin. Very
Yeah.
good. Did I see other hands going up? Because we're going to. Okay, this is your warning because I'm going to have to end in a minute. Oh, there we go. Oh, hogging the questions. Yes, go on.
No one else is going. So, I'd just love to know what you all think about, of course, the painting is a catalyst for Dorian, but do any of you think that Dorian would have gone kind of full Dorian without Harry?
No, this is interesting. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you think so?
I do.
Yeah.
I thought it was
no,
so
not
good
without
at
Harry.
that, and you did seem so sweet in those opening
Well, did you notice though, as it goes along,
But he's very quickly lured over by this one, right, isn't he?
the thing is that when we first meet him, he's very convincing when he says to Basil, "Oh, Mr. Howard, I didn't know who you were," etc. But then, as the play goes along, Dorian lies a lot, and we know he's lying because we've seen what's gone before. Whereas none of us have seen what's gone before the play began.
So maybe
no
he
one knows
entrapped. So he went
exactly.
after the famous lady.
Mm.
Ooh. Maybe. And he purposely found you on your own. Is this what we're saying?
Possibly.
Oh, sorry, I'm a little bit slow. That's very clever. So you all think he's a baddie from the beginning?
Well, also remember we hear no gunshot at the end, and he's just convinced him that he's going to kill himself. I think there's a bit of a comment on what do we know before stories begin and what do we know before stories end.
Yes, I was wondering that the ending is quite ambiguous. So you don't think he kills himself? He goes on to do something
He's
else.
leaving London soon. Maybe he ends up in Morocco with an artfully altered moustache and sunglasses because it's sunny there.
And please tell me, I think.
With him.
Well, Basil's bones need to be found. Oh no, bones. There's nothing left.
There's nothing left.
Wait, Conor, could Alan have left a note or something revealing what happened to poor old Basil?
It's a possibility. I think he was. Regardless of what he sort of says at the time, I think he was still too enamoured with Dorian to ever kind of drop him in it like that.
Right.
I think he does. He's quite a sweet character, really.
Yeah.
And I think he does what he does completely out of loyalty.
The most horrible person. It's a toss-up between these two.
It's a wonderful look at lust. And that is the basic premise of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because you've got a lovely juxtaposition between the lovely character being corruptible, and him being corrupting. Do you know what I mean? That's what makes it work.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost like, Jimmy Savile meets,
Well, that's an interesting reference.
taking it to an extreme.
Speaking of lust, we have to talk about your full-on nudity. I just bring it up because you did a great interview with a website I run called My Theatre Mates, and you said one of the most surprising things that you found from this experience is that you feel very comfortable being on stage.
Yeah, it's really easy actually. It's the minute before you take them off, you go, oh fuck, there's a lot of people here. But as soon as they're down, it's like it's just the same really. I don't know. And especially when you've been in hot costume for a while, it's quite relaxing.
Letting the breeze flow.
Yeah, this is the first time I've done it, so.
Very good, well done. Okay, so let me then end by asking probably a predictable question, but given the subject of the play, but each of you needs to answer it. I'm going to start with Conor because I feel I haven't heard enough from you. Would you want to stay young forever?
Oh God. What was I the first person to have to ask? No, I mean I think this play is probably a good illustration of what that would do to your kind of mind and your personality. I think it's certainly not all it would be cracked up to be. I think it would do some very strange things to you.
Yeah. Jordan, young forever?
No. I think you just get used to whatever, well, the story shows, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You get used to whatever level you take it to, you get used to that, and then, these external things are only good for a few weeks.
Okay, I'm going to give people an option because I don't want you all to say the same thing. So, but no, it's very good that you're saying this. But also, if you did stay young forever, what age would you choose to say? Or it doesn't have to be young. Maybe your 40s were the best. I thought 40s were good. Heather,
I want to be 17 and just stay there. That's fine, because you're old enough to do most things, but you're young enough to have an excuse.
Chloe?
No, I wouldn't want to be young forever. I think it'd be quite lonely. From a practical point of view, it might be quite handy as an actor to stay looking about 25 for quite a while, just because there are more parts for you, especially as a girl. But then I think sooner or later I'd want to get older.
Rich?
No, I wouldn't want it either. I think I mean, getting older, there are really big irritations about getting older, and I think, but no, but if I did have to choose, I guess, I'd probably choose my 30s. Probably when
30?
Just, away from all the anxieties of going in your 20s and about oh my god, am I ever going to achieve anything in this world? You know, and then that kind of stops, and you just think, so what? I'm just going to enjoy myself now.
That's right. I was talking to a friend of mine in their 20s, not my 20s, their 20s about this last night. I was thinking 20s were really difficult. They were really
I
difficult.
choose what Dorian has, where my appearance stays the same, but what goes on inside my head ages and matures.
Oh, you sick bastard.
That's worrying.
I just thought of that as you were going along, actually. Exactly the response I wanted.
I think knowing you're going to die is quite motivating, isn't it? I think if you knew you were going to live forever, having the drive to do anything might not be quite the same. And I think, you know, I always try and make the most of whatever I'm doing in the moment. So I'm just going to say, this age, I'll stop here, and that's where I'll be. I'm quite happy.
Yes, and you're doing great. And last words.
Well, I'm the youngest of 4, and I've always been jealous of my older sisters. So I would like to stay just a little bit older than them always. So if they stay young,
So you'd make them stop aging?
I'd make them stop aging so I could get older and finally be able to be in charge.
Oh, very good. I like that. Let me also tell you that if you have not yet, it's very much worth getting the programme. Bargain price of £1 with really lovely photos, very nicely designed, Rich and Ross. And the play text is now available, and they can buy it on Amazon, and it's gorgeous. Very nice indeed. So thank you for that. Now, audience, you have been wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
And this is especially great that you stuck around with us on a Saturday afternoon. Will you please now, audience, go forth and be ambassadors for this show and this theatre company and spread the word? And Rich, tell us, the production is here at Drayton Arms until
the 6th of November. And so we've got 2 more matinee performances, and otherwise it's Tuesday to Saturday nights.
And any plans beyond that?
Not anything firm yet. We're looking
But
at...
we are going to be doing it in Brighton Fringe next year in May.
Yeah, maybe in a larger venue, but sort of not as long a run as we've done before.
And there'll be some dates in the meantime.
Talking about other sort of places around the country.
Yes, so be sure to check out their website and all the social media. And speaking of social media, once we give them all a big clap, for those of you who are on social media, will you do us the great favour of taking a photo? We'll budge up and get a nice group shot. Take a photo and share it on any platforms that you're on and tell people to come see the show. Are people nodding? Saying nodding. Yeah. Good. In which case, please join me in thanking Jordan and Conor and Heather and Chloe and Rich and Ross and Chris and Max. Thank you.